Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe is a failed state. I've said this on this program many times, and it is true. The tragedy is that there are those who are actively accepting it. And some of them even think that Vision 2030 is a reality, i.e., the economy will be turned around. There are those who have accepted the economic meltdown and resigned to it. I think what we wanted to discuss tonight is why each individual are accepting and are letting things happen as the country sinks deeper and deeper into the abyss. Ben, I don't know whether you've had any thought on that one. Why is Zimbabwe a failed state, and why are we letting it happen?
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. And our biggest challenge is that the people of Zimbabwe have been slow in catching on what really is happening. Our people, tend to believe whatever they're told, especially if it comes from individuals that are in leadership. I mean, we have seen this where somebody can just come and claim something that is non-existent and the people will run with it as gold. They have never looked deep into see what are the requirements for such an event to happen or such a condition to be achieved. They really do not want to investigate, to figure out and to think for themselves. So I think that is the underlying problem with most Zimbabweans out there. We are quick to laugh at guys like Sapatina, but yet we live the same lifestyle, and which basically shapes why Zimbabwe is a failed state. The people themselves have failed themselves.
Yeah, it is. Well, talking of the failed state and Vision 2030, I think it has to be said that there are some people out there who actually believe in Vision 2030. Some of them out of sheer naivety. They have no clue what it takes to develop the country. And that's the tragedy of it. Up to now, they still have no clue why we are a failed state. And then there are those who are actively promoting this Vision 2030, knowing fully well that it is a mirage, but for their own selfish political reasons. There are ZANU-PF leaders who are promoting this Vision 2030, knowing fully well that the country is sinking. but they know that they are benefiting from the chaos and confusion that is taking place. And that is one of the tragedies of Zimbabwe. People can be so short-sighted. They really genuinely think the situation is working just because it's working for them. When you accept a situation where the country's roads are in this state, and we're trying to show a video earlier on of Chirundu Road, that is one of the main arteries in Zimbabwe. The Victoria Falls, the same condition. That's when you realize that the country is going nowhere. And what kind of a person would still want to pretend that Zimbabwe is anything other than a failed state? Anyone who still maintains that position, you can tell this is why the country is in a mess. These are people who really do not want to think. Then there are those who know and can see the country is going nowhere, but they've elected to do nothing about it. Zimbabwe is a failed state because the overwhelming majority of people out there have resigned themselves to that situation. They feel we are helpless, when in reality, they just haven't even bothered to exercise themselves. That is the tragedy of Zimbabwe.
I think sometime late last year, we had a visit from a Nigerian billionaire, Dangote. And he was addressing, a gathering where, he says there are certain requirements for a country to thrive. And first of all is electricity. If you find you're going without electricity, then surely there can never be growth. And you look at Zimbabwe, and some industries, they basically run on backup power generators. There is never electricity. An economic driver. One thing that is supposed to even boost Vision 2030 is absent. When you look at the Zimbabwe situation and what ZANU-PF says, it's a totally different picture. How can you have an upper middle income economy, a fully functioning economy, where you do not have electricity? Now, you don't have road access. And these places you are talking about, you're talking of Victoria Falls Road. It leads to a border and an international crossing where not only one country uses to access Zimbabwe, but many countries. Chirundu is the same thing. Recently, they managed to fix Bedbridge, road. The question is, how then do you trade with people when people cannot access you? How then do you build an economy when people cannot access you? How do you sell Zimbabwean goods and services when people cannot access you? I'm only talking of, the roads and electricity. Ian Smith left some words for us. He says, if blacks were to govern themselves, even the trains that are the safest in Zimbabwe will be the most dangerous thing to the country. And guess what? He was right. We don't have trains anymore. We managed to break that. So, how do we intend to build an economy when there are no drivers? The requirements are not there, but then they still stand and they say we are growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And everybody around is, is kind of worried and surprised to say, but how are you going to, dismiss the laws that were set in place? Or only ZANU-PF will be able to answer that.
My last remark on this issue is that to remind Zimbabweans that the potholes we see on our roads, this did not happen in one season or in the last 5 years or 10 years. This has been the rot and decay that set in soon after independence, and we have let it happen. Nations get the government they deserve. Whether you want to admit it, you care to admit it or not, the fact still remains. The people of Zimbabwe have the government they deserve. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.